So, Mike, you're back on the show to share a couple of stories from your time on the F-111. So, can we hear a few of those?
Yeah, sure, Mike. It's good to be back again, and yeah, nice to be able to share a few. I'm not sure if I went through much last time on like the Gulf War, how much of an extensive workup we did for it. Of course, we didn't go, so I'm not claiming any stolen valor there. But I was just having a look through my logbook recently, and yeah, we did a lot of workup for it in preparation to go. And it started about 2 weeks after Saddam invaded Kuwait. We took off and started doing maritime strikes against the Navy, who just left Jervis Bay on the east coast of Australia 2 weeks after the invasion. So myself and Steve Hobbs, who tragically was killed a few years
Hmm.
later in Malaysia. We were number two to the CO at about 2:30 in the morning. Still remember that mission, taking off and hitting the ships just off the east coast, south of Sydney there. And we attacked them for about 2.5 hours and recovered to sail with the two jets. The next night, another two joined us, so we ended up with a four-ship as the fleet sailed around to the south and then the west, around to Western Australia initially. And it took us about a week to get there. Harpoon was one of our kits, so we were sort of adept at maritime strike, though we got a lot better during the exercise here because it lasted about 3 weeks and it was just full on. One of the interesting things that happened to me on the third night when we were transiting between Sale and Adelaide to the RAAF base Edinburgh, and we attacked the ships, and I remember being at 90 miles from the ships. It was about 200 miles south of the coast, middle of winter basically, pretty cold, pitch black.
Wow.
We're at 300 feet, hand flying it, no radar. The
Oh,
only thing transmitting was the radalt, so we were actually at 300 feet, but we didn't have the radar on, no lights, and I just felt this, like we had this deceleration, massive deceleration, and got thrown forward in my seatbelt, and it seemed like half a second later there's a big explosion, and it was fairly instant response. What it was, as I climbed up, I saw one of the engines had come back to around about so it was only a compressor stall, but that instant loss of thrust was quite a force, and I'd never experienced another thing like that. And I guess it's just being relatively so fast, and we were doing 540 indicated without being able to see a thing outside. Anyway, we recovered back to the base. One of the two times I had an engine failure, as much as all the Tomcat guys complain about the TF30s, both of mine ended up recovering okay and just made precautionary single engine approaches. Meanwhile, that night the boss got in the engine, crawled around it and decided he knew what it was. He talked to maintenance, and the next day we launched again in a four-ship, attacking the ships south of the Great Australian Bight. We came out of nowhere. They didn't see us until we were basically over the top. So we didn't get any indications from their radars, and it was a pretty successful strike. And it was big sea state. These ships were just pitching up and down and lost in the foam as we went over in a four-ship in pretty close formation on that first pass. We did a couple more, and then we bingoed out to transit to Pierce, which was still about 500 miles away. So it's quite a long flight. That one, around 4-hour mission with probably about an hour and a half at low level getting in there. And interestingly, that changed a lot of their tactics and how they crewed their operation on the ship and made them better for when they eventually got to the Gulf. Then operated out of Pierce for around about a week in Perth. There was quite a bit of media attention when we arrived there, and then I sort of became a little bit not famous in the squadron, but it was a bit of a catch cry, is that Mickey, we're going to war. Because my boss put his arm around me when we were in the bar, and he was just dead keen to go. So that was like the end of about the end of August, I think, in 1990 when that occurred, and I was a pretty young, relatively green F-111 pilot when that happened. I'd been in the squadron only a few months. Anyway, then we spent the next really 4 or 5 months, I suppose, preparing to go and never actually deploying.
How did you feel like that? Did you want to be deployed?
Well, pretty mixed feelings. I guess I was a little bit apprehensive of, it's a bit scary, I suppose, thinking you're going to go to war, and certainly the Iraqis were being talked up as having, massive air defences, and, there was quite a bit of risk. I mean, of course, I would have, done what I'd, joined up to do, but I wasn't itching to go and, take out people. That wasn't really my style at the time, and probably never has been. But you do what you have to do, and some people were dead keen to go. Like really, we talked it up. I mean, you never know until you go. I'm certainly not going to claim any, particular bravery on my part or anything like that. I was, apprehensive about it, and just worked at trying to be the best pilot I could be in the squadron as a fairly young and inexperienced one, and really worked on being a good solid wingman throughout that year. We had some really good leadership in the squadron. The CO was, pretty tough, but he made us fly hard and, demanded a lot of us. And I really learnt a lot and warmed to that, and I think my growth through that year compared to the previous year when I was on conversion course was probably the most I've ever had in my career in that 12-month period. He was a real driving force, and he was super keen to project us as Australia's primary strike squadron, and he was pushing for us to go as much as possible with the higher ups in the Air Force and politicians.